Turns out NC State football was not finished making coordinator moves late on Monday night. We got scooped, but we're here to talk about it on Wednesday.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy Wednesday to all. Happy New Year to all. And all this talk about coordinators, I completely forgot what day it was yesterday, which was New Year's Eve. Forgot to wish each and every one of you a Happy New Year. Just real quickly before we get into things, thank you all so much for interacting with us for the entirety of 2024. It was a massive year for the two of us here on this podcast. Saw a ton of growth from y'all. All the interactions and the listens and the tags anywhere on social media. It means the world to us that we get to do this show each and every day for the support of Wolfpack Nation. So thank you all so much, so very much for tuning in with us each and every day. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. And we're going to start this new year discussing NC State's new defensive coordinator hire. Now, this broke very late on Monday evening, so it did not make it into our Tuesday podcast. But NC State has hired DJ Eliot as the new defensive coordinator at NC State. DJ Eliot has had a ton of different stops in his coaching career. Most recently, as in this season, he was an analyst on the staff of Baylor, but that does not pop up per se on his resume. He's also spent time with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2023 as the linebacker coach. He's also served as the defensive coordinator for Temple, Kansas, Kentucky, Colorado, defensive end coach at Florida State. A ton of stops, a ton of experience, and perhaps he'll bring something just a little bit different with him to NC State. I understand that his base formation is a hybrid 3-4, Kenton. Can you just dive into your ball knowledge and explain what that might look like for the Pack?
All right, first thing first. For anybody that was like expecting to never see the 3-3-5 again, I have unfortunate news. I have very unfortunate news, okay? In some third and long situations, you're going to see those three linebackers stacked behind those three defensive linemen. I'm so sorry to tell you. Now that we've got the bad news out of the way, the good news. A hybrid 3-4. Normally, when you think about the 3-4, you think about how, Bill Belichick ran it with the Giants if you're really, really old, or, how it was run with the Patriots in later iterations, where you see like you're going to have a really, really big nose tackle that's like, I'm just here to eat space and all that. Two defensive tackle, defensive end hybrids, and then two guys on the outside that are like rush ends, but they can drop. They're fluid enough to drop every now and then, and you can come at it from a variety of ways there. But the hybrid is a little different in that what you'll normally see is you'll see those three defensive linemen and all that, but they won't be in quite that vein. Like you'll have what is similar to a traditional 4-3 in terms of you'll have one guy that's a nose, but he's got a little bit of something to him in pass rush as well, instead of just being a run stopping guy. And then you'll have two guys that are again, instead of being the traditional, like, hey, we are, four techniques in a 3-4 where guys are lined up either head up on the tackle or inside the tackle, but not over the guard. Instead of having that, you'll have guys that are more adept at, hey, this is a true defensive end, this is a defensive tackle. And then you'll have one linebacker that's kind of rotating between like, all right, am I up on the line of scrimmage or am I pushed back? What am I doing? What does the situation dictate and all that kind of stuff? And then you'll have a will linebacker that may be attached to the line of scrimmage, sometimes may not be. I think in terms of personnel, the most interesting thing about this in terms of players who played a lot last year, where does Sean Brown kind of fit into all of this? Because I think that he's a little too small to be attached to the line of scrimmage as, a linebacker here. But who knows? A few months with Thunder and them on weight gain, I mean, it's very possible. But how much speed would he lose? How much of his ability and things that make him would he lose there if he were to be that guy? That's kind of an interesting thought experiment to have there. But again, the hybrid 3-4 it's different from your traditional 3-4 because again, it kind of veers into that 4-3 lane. And again, that some people call it the star, some people call it the jack linebacker that is going to be attached to the line of scrimmage a good amount is going to be the pivotal guy, which now if Elijah Groves is everything that people say he is, I could easily see him filling that role. Like, granted, that role is going to require a little bit of pass rush juice, but I could definitely see him being that guy. I'm very intrigued to see how our linebacker talent kind of aligns with this setup. And by the way, this is like what I have seen from his defenses in the past. He could have adjusted because he hasn't been a true defensive coordinator since what year, Grayson?
2022.
Yeah, it's been a couple years. So he could have adjusted that, could have adapted that, or he could look at our roster and say, hey, we have to do something a little bit different. But generally, when you think of hybrid 3-4, that's what it looks like. Obviously, you're going to get some traditional 3-4 with 2 outside linebackers walked up on the line and 3 defensive linemen, but you're going to see more variation than like, hey, that's how we come out and come at it on a regular. And everything else from there we'll kind of handle as like in need to situations or one-offs.
In my limited knowledge from doing a little bit of research earlier today, it kind of seems like the cousin of the 3-3-5 in that they're in the same family, but they look a little bit different. And the hybrid 3-4, it is hell-bent on forcing pressure, which I think is a really good thing for NC State because the 3-3-5, it really doesn't afford you all those opportunities so often. The hybrid 3-4, although most of the time you will still have 3 down linemen, like Kenton was talking about, you're more than likely going to have a linebacker attached to the line of scrimmage. So you're probably going to be rushing 4 on the majority of snaps, which is just a little bit of a defensive change there. But pressure is the big thing in this defense, whether he's sending linebackers or defensive backs, mixing blitz coverages. It's a whole lot to survey if you're the opposing team's quarterback, so it can get a little bit hectic. I want to talk about just the hire itself, though, because this kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. I don't really think DJ Eliot was on anyone's hot board that I have seen of recent. So for this to come out late on Monday night, it caught a lot of people by surprise. When you go through his resume, and I already read you some of the stops he's already been at, it gives you a little bit of pause because he hasn't had a world's worth of success at any of these stops. He's had a lot of experience at a lot of different places, but most of these stints have been like 1 year, 2 year. I mean, just for example, with the Eagles, he was their linebacker coach for just 1 season before moving on to, I guess, greener pastures for him. So this is another hire. I kind of look at this in the same vein as the Kurt Roper elevation. To me, it feels like a move that's very easily wiped out next season if everything goes completely south. It's kind of like a low risk hire where you don't have to hire a search party and do an extensive amount of interviews and go throughout the whole process of finding someone, that it just gets wiped out if we do end up going like 6-6 or potentially worse. So I kind of think this is like a parallel move to one of Kurt Roper. The reality of the situation, though, is none of us know if this is a good or bad hire yet. We won't know until they take the field next fall. So I saw a lot of people kind of up in arms, like, what in the world are we doing with this DJ Eliot guy? He doesn't seem to have a whole lot of success. A lot of questions also came up about Kurt Roper. I think this is a situation where beggars necessarily can't be choosers. You had to make a move quick. You got to retain a lot of your players here on the staff to keep them in position. This is what you end up with. You end up with a coach that's been a lot of places, seen a lot of things, not all the time good, but we're hopefully going to see what he can do here in the red and white. Another thing I want to talk about just real quickly, Coach FAL is still on the staff. He was elevated to co-defensive coordinator, which I saw set a lot of people off as well. I want to give you some caution, though. I don't think this is a co-coordinator situation that turned out to be a debacle. I see it as this is an elevation for FAL. He gets a pay raise. He gets the appreciation for all he's put into this staff, and you get to keep him here. Clearly, Dorn and company wants him to be here at NC State, so they elevate him by title. But I view this as DJ Eliot will be the defensive play caller. He is the defensive coordinator, but of course, you're going to get some input from FAL as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, we looked at Anaya and said that was a slam dunk hire. You know? And people can do all the revisionist history that they want. I remember the feelings, not just in Raleigh.
We were excited.
Around the entire ACC about like, oh man, what's NC State cooking over there? Yeah. Oh man, they got their guy. He's a dangerous coordinator that can do it all these different ways. And it was like, we got a steal of the century up off of Syracuse and getting them. Didn't work out. So I'm not as quick. That one taught me be a little bit more patient, let that thing develop a little bit. And then when you see and you have enough information to say, hey, this is a good or bad hire, you let it out. On paper, these are two very blah hires. Just being completely honest, these are two hires where it's like, I'm not like, oh my God, I'm blown away, but I'm also not looking at them saying like, this guy, there was nobody better, So they're not splash hires. But if you think about who NC State is, how much stuff do we do for splash?
I was going to say, it's kind of situations like, what did you really expect? I mean, if Doran's seat is warm, and at this point we believe that it will be, what did you really expect? You weren't going to go out and pull a Lincoln Riley from somewhere and bring him to NC State. That's just not a feasible option. So you had to make a move. You had to do it quick at this point in the season, and where you currently are in the Doran tenure, this is kind of what you get. So on that note, DJ Eliot is named the defensive coordinator here at NC State into the 2025 season. 2 new coordinators in a calendar day. Of course, the staff did move very quickly. We'll certainly have our eye on any other staffing changes here in the coming weeks. Coming up next, we're going to end this year. I guess technically you're already listening to this in 2025 on a lighter note, talking about the top moments for NC State in 2024 before we end the show, giving our college football quarterfinal picks. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our first Wednesday show and our first ad read of 2025 is Gametime. I'm a big live event guy. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, comedy, theater, you name it. But one of my favorite memories was attending NC State in the ACC Championship last year. I will simply never forget it. The energy and excitement was unforgettable, and I couldn't have been there without the use of Gametime. Gametime has made it easier now than ever before to get tickets to all of your favorite live events using Gametime Picks. The feature filters out all of the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, and you won't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The curation of Gametime Picks makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it, they got it. Toggling the all-in pricing feature on the app will show your total upfront, so you receive zero surprises at checkout. And as always, you get that panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect upon arrival. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, and again, create an account and use redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? You already know. It's Gametime. Portion of our Wednesday show, first show of 2025. Before we go any deeper into this new year, let's go ahead and take a look back into the year that was, the year of the Wolf for NC State in 2024. One of the most storybook years in our athletic program history. You know, you talk about, well, I guess we'll get into the moments here in just a second, Kenton, but one of the most unforgettable years we've ever had as NC State fans. Maybe one of the most we'll ever have ever because of how crazy it truly was here. But we're going to get into some of our top moments. We'll go back and forth. I'll shoot it to you first. What's like the top moment that bounces off of your brain from 2024?
I mean, it's really hard to kind of name one moment, even one or two, because there were so many ups that we saw here. There were so many, so many games that we really, it's Final Four men's basketball, Final Four women's basketball, Omaha from your baseball team. It's kind of hard. Like it's like, what's your favorite part of a triple dippers from Chile? It's like, well, damn, you don't want to disrespect the Southwestern egg rolls, but the sliders are good too. But those crispers, you got to get the honey chipotle. Never mind, I'm starting to salivate even thinking about that. But in all seriousness, if I had to name a top moment, of all the teams that made it, the most improbable was our basketball team, men's basketball, that had to win 5 games in 5 days. And when the bracket came out, I'm like, oh boy, I don't know how we're going to get past Kentucky if they get past Oakland, which, by the way, fun fact, somebody told y'all that Oakland and Kentucky game was going to be really good one. It was a game to watch. But in all seriousness, I look at that 5 games in 5 days, and then going forward to do what you had done in that moment was so amazing and special. No disrespect, not taking anything away from the women's basketball team, but I knew, and this is a testament to Westmore. I knew as soon as I saw the bracket, oh, the women just got into the Final Four. That was another thing that I said immediately, loudly and publicly. I was like, oh yeah, that's good for them. They're going to the Final Four this year, which they did. But the men's team, I mean, what a run, dude! What a run! Not having won a conference championship in either of our lifetimes. Me and Grayson, we're don't let the bald head fool you. I'm still under 30, folks. I had never seen it in my lifetime. And so to see that run has to be number one.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise we're going to start with men's basketball. I promise to all of you I won't get worked up talking about it because, I mean, it is in the past, but I'll never forget it. The men's basketball team last year looks, unfortunately a little bit similar to what we're watching currently this year, in that there was the leadership struggles and the offensive struggles and could never really seem to get out of their own way, losing games that they should win, finding ways to squabble even in the easier games. It just looked like a team that had a rudderless ship, and we all know where that was likely headed as you go into the ACC tournament. Couple that with the fact that Coach Keats was very likely like 4 minutes away from losing his job in that first game against Louisville of the ACC tournament, to not only come back and win that game, but then win the next 4 in a row in 5 consecutive days. There is a reason that has only happened one other time in conference tournament history. I think it was UConn with Kemba Walker.
Yeah.
We will never and should never forget what an insane 5-day stretch that was.
And who did we beat for the conference championship?
Oh, I'm getting to that. To beat the other 5 schools in the conference that have national championships, it just sweetens the deal a little bit more. And sure, Louisville is not that good. Syracuse is not that good. You still got to find a way to win on consecutive days. Yeah. To get to the Duke game and find a way to beat them after they had taken B2A a couple times in the regular season, that was spectacular. The shot from MOC, it will live forever in NC State Wolfpack lore. I posted it on Twitter before we unfortunately lost to Virginia on New Year's Eve, but we will never, ever forget that shot. It never gets old. Every time you see it, it feels like the first time. The goosebumps come back every single time to win that game in overtime, all before matching up with the Dirty Foot Club, our favorite little friends in the ACC championship, after they had beaten us twice in the regular season. And with the trophy on the line on the 5th consecutive day, DJ Burns hits his first 3 of the year. Casey Morsell puts RJ Davis in a body bag. Mo Diarra goes crazy. And DJ Horn, the local kid from Raleigh. All right, I won't tear up. 29 points on a bad wheel. Unforgettable. And then, of course, yes, they go on to march through March Madness and make it to the Final Four. It's kind of funny when you're looking at the current year's team, and yes, they did just lose a brutal loss, had a double-digit lead and lost it. We'll talk about basketball some other time, but I think, a lot of people toss around the fluke word, and it's like, we don't think Keats a good coach. He got lucky and somehow made it to the Final Four. It was a fluke. Even if it was a fluke, in a roundabout way, it almost makes all of that even better, because you witnessed something that is like statistically impossible, like less than 1% chance of happening. We were all here to see it. And NC State, amongst all other fan bases, has been dying for moments like those. And to finally get them when literally not one single person on this planet saw it coming, never, ever, ever will forget that. You started with that one, although I kind of ran off with it here myself. So I'll just get into my second moment before I pass it back to you, Kenton. My second biggest moment was Omaha. NC State, as an NC State baseball guy myself, that was another team that, they fought through injury. They fought through a couple losses earlier in the season where you didn't really know what you're going to get as that year went on. But to watch them weekend after weekend go through the toughest competition in ACC baseball, which is one of the best conferences in all of baseball. I'm sorry to see that basketball and football can't really hold that torch right now, but the NC State Wolfpack team led by Eliot Avent, and we all know his storied history here, one of the greatest to ever do it. To watch him grow with this team over that year, and they get stronger and stronger every week, find a way to host their own regional, which was the first time we had done that in, I think, 6 years. I think 2018 was the last time prior. to win a home regional was such a good thing for Wolfpack baseball fans. Been waiting for moments like that for quite some time. And so to win a regional championship in front of the home crowd, that means something. And that's something this program has missed on for a couple of years. And then to go on the road to another SEC environment in a super regional, we all know what we did in 2021 out in Arkansas, to go down to Georgia and win in game 3 with some of your true freshmen coming up in the biggest spots, Jacob Duden, Alex Sosa, Luke Nixon. Unbelievable. The future for NC State baseball is perhaps one of the brightest of any team we have on campus. I'm already getting excited for the 2025 NC State baseball team, but to watch Eliot Avent get back to Omaha after everything that went down in 2021, that was special for me.
Let me tell you something. You know, when you talk about what we needed in those situations to get to Omaha, right? Georgia's got a guy that everybody's saying, hey, he's not just one of the best hitters in the NCAA right now. He's one of the best hitters in NCAA history, right? You know, what can you do with him? What can you do? He's a young guy. Oh, man, this ain't going to go well for him. Oh, NC State ain't looking good. How many pitches did he need to sit him down in the clutch?
Dudem punched him out in 4 pitches.
4 pitches.
Best hitter in the country. 4 pitches.
Let me tell you something. What did SWV say? Can't believe how your loving makes me weak. I get so weak in the knees, I can hardly speak. That's what old boy from Georgia was feeling, seeing that slider come across the plate. He got weak in the knees, folks. He got weak in the knees. And so, you know, like Grace had talked about there, seeing so many young guys, you know, not only is that success, that's sustainable success.
Yes.
It's sustainable success. And these are guys that, with all due respect to, you know, previous greats that we've had and whatnot, these are guys that want to be at Raleigh. I don't have a doubt in my mind like, oh, man, these guys, I never thought during that run, oh, hell, all these guys are going to be gone next year. We don't have the money to keep them. I never thought that once. These are guys that love NC State. And it's so interesting because things didn't even break in a great way for NC State baseball last year. We had some pivotal guys hurt at some very important times. And so to see this team get to Omaha, man, especially with everything that we had seen in the past, when you know, teams that go into Omaha and whatnot, hey, if you should win, if you should lose, let it be by the code. Cheering as the next team goes by and the parade rolls down the road. And we got to do that. We got our chance. And you know, going back to Omaha, that was a big deal. And, you know, that's got to feel great. That's really got to feel great.
A lot of people give Eliot Avent some hell for being here for 28 years and not having like a real trophy to show for. Please hear me when I tell you, do not take this man for granted. He's been such an incredible ambassador for NC State for that entire tenure. Picked up 1,000 wins in a Wolfpack uniform last season. You'll never see that again. Here, like, I promise you, you'll never see another baseball coach at NC State pick up 1,000 wins all here wearing the red and white. So make sure you appreciate what this man has brought to our school. Multiple Omaha trips here in the last couple of years. Hopefully we're going to get a whole lot more of these home regionals and reconstructing our ballpark, which is way past due, but just a couple of those great moments. Again, definitely need to shout out women's basketball. Went to the Final Four. They were a juggernaut last year. Westmore. One thing about Westmore is he's going to stand on business, and bringing back so many pieces of that team into this team this year. Although struggling a little bit right now, you certainly expect that they're going to get it right. Wrestling had a great year. Swimming is great as always. Soccer's on the uprise. It truly was the year of the Wolf. In 2024, we will certainly never forget it. Kenton, any other thoughts here?
You know, we talked about our favorite moments and the moments that were most awe-inspiring and all that. But I must tell you, retiring old William Brown. Oh!
I should have known you'd get this in.
Oh! That's the type of stuff. I cannot say how good it feels without getting that call from David Locke saying, hey, cut off the ring light. Turn off your mic. Don't worry about coming back. Just know there are a lot of expletives that go into it, and all of them expressing elation and pure joy at putting their greatest head coach of all time out of his misery in that way. And I look forward to beating another William in a similar way to send him to the gulag in terms of another 70-something-year-old who's decided to make a stop in Chapel Hill. Oh, my heart is full and warm just thinking about sending that old soft man into retirement. You know, it just, Grayson, there are very few people who understand. And one day I'll tell the story on there. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't already. But there's a reason that I hate UNC so much, even though I didn't grow up with this rivalry. There's a very specific reason. And to see that we retired their legend, their GOAT in terms of coaches in this way. Oh, Grayson, my heart. He didn't have to do it, but I'm so glad he did.
Flags fly forever, and NC State certainly has more than a few to fly from the year 2024. Coming up next, we're going to close out our Wednesday episode on a fun note. We're going to tell you who we are picking in the quarterfinal of the college football playoff. This comes after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second Wednesday sponsor is FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, and it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $250 back in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many different ways for you to pick up a W, and me personally, I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points they'll score in the contest. It's thrilling. Head on over to FanDuel.com in order to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 back in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Last couple minutes here of our Wednesday show, which also serves as our first episode of 2025. Now, obviously, the first of the 4 quarterfinal matches for the college football playoff is on Tuesday night. It's actually about to kick off here in about 15 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and pick, and feel free to make fun of us in the morning when you listen to this if we get everything wrong, or you can praise us for knowing ball if we get everything right. First game we have here is the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. It is on New Year's Eve out in Glendale, Arizona. Penn State and Boise State. Penn State is actually favored by 12.5 now currently. Kenton, how do you see this one going down?
You know, I always say James Franklin struggles in big games. Unfortunately, this one is against a small team. I think he gets it done. I think they cover very closely, but give me Penn State. I always have a hard time picking against Cass Tech guys. Shout out to Kobe King over there doing great things. Give me Penn State.
Can't help myself, so I'm going to get into a little FanDuel talk here. I have money on Penn State, and I hope I don't regret doing so because James Franklin is a little bit of a smaller man when it comes to big-time matchups. I think he's a little bit of a goober, respectfully, and I think he made several decisions in the game against SMU that should have bitten somewhere in the you-know-what, but he got bailed out because of superior talent from the Nittany Lions. I hope I don't regret this, but I am taking Penn State. I don't know if I'm going to take them to cover that 12.5, but I think they'll win probably close to maybe by a touchdown or so. But the reason I want to talk some FanDuel numbers here, Ashton Jeanty, who is the Heisman runner-up, has rushed for at least 125 yards in every single one of his games so far, 13 for 13. His over-under for this game is 127.5, Kenton. Are you taking the over or the under?
Oh, boy.
One more note for context. Penn State's rush defense is 7th in the country. Okay.
Yeah. I know Penn State is damn good at stopping the run. You know what? They had a week off, but you know what? These are young guys. These are young legs. I don't think a week off makes that big of a difference. Give me the under. I think he gets close. I think he gets really close, but he misses.
Okay. I also took the under, and I hope I don't regret this. Feel free to make fun of me in the morning when somehow he runs for 300 yards on Penn State, but I'm taking the under. I'm also a little bit skeptical on if he's going to get in the end zone or not, but I think I'll leave that off my card. Regardless, I'm taking Penn State in this one. The second of the 4 matchups is Texas and Arizona State. Now, I happened to see a couple Arizona State players get a little ballsy in the media. I saw Cam Scatabo say, quote, "No one in the country can stop me." And I also saw the quarterback for Arizona State, which is Sam Leavitt, say that he's going to prove why he is a better quarterback than Quinn Ewers. Kenton, your thoughts?
You know, I had thoughts coming into this game that weren't popular. And Arizona State's confidence has reaffirmed those thoughts.
Okay.
Get Longhorns, Texas Longhorns, Longhorn Steakhouse. Hell, talk about the big kids that play horn in the band. Don't give a damn. Give me the Sun Devils.
I would love to see Arizona State win this game. I think they've been one of the best stories in all of college football. However, I think that they just signed their own death note. In my opinion, the number one thing that you should not do in situations like this, especially when you're the underdog, is go out and essentially guarantee a win. I remember that year that the Patriots were undefeated. Every single week, somebody on the other team was like, nope, guaranteeing a win. And then it was that person that would get roasted by Randy Moss going 80 yards down the field. I'm concerned now that Scatabo has put an even bigger target on his back, especially because of how good Texas's defense is. I'm going to lean with the Longhorns here, but I just hope it's a good game because I think it could get ugly. Next one here is the Rose Bowl, and it's a rematch from earlier in the season. We have Ohio State fresh off of a B2A performance over Tennessee, and the Oregon Ducks still undefeated. Of course, they previously beat Ohio State out in Eugene by 1 point. What do you have for the Rose Bowl?
First thing first, before anybody says, oh, what a sad state of your program to celebrate something like this. You're damn right. NC State is in a sad place after having a losing season and losing to ECU. Okay, so let's get that out of the way so nobody's like, oh, you're just sad. Thank you, Ohio State. Something I never thought I'd say in my life as a Detroit kid, as a Michigander. Never thought I'd say that. Thank you, Ohio State, for doing what NC State could not, for doing what we as a team were unable to do for a multitude of reasons. Thank you for showing everybody, hey, this team ain't the 85 bit. Now, with that being said, I think Oregon is an absolute buzzsaw. I think it's going to be really, really tough. And everybody's like, oh, it's a neutral site. California to Oregon, California to Ohio. Let's be very honest about this, right? The game's in Pasadena. I think Oregon squeaks out a very, very close one, and I will never have to thank Ohio State again after this day. But I think Oregon wins a close one.
Two things I'll start with. One, Dan Lanning is one of my favorite coaches in all of college football. That's a guy that just gets it, and he's just a damn good coach on the other half of that. And two, I think Ohio State's going to win. And I think losing to Michigan did something to their brain chemistry, and it unlocked another level because they unloaded the clip on Tennessee. And I thought Tennessee was actually going to win that game. But from what I saw in that game, I think that this game becomes like a de facto national championship because more than likely the winner of this game probably got a really good shot at taking home the whole thing. And I'm glad that this game is the Rose Bowl because I think it's the best matchup of any on the board. Again, I would love for Oregon to win here, but I'm worried that Ohio State has awoken from, I guess, I don't even know how you fall asleep if you're Ohio State, but something changed after that embarrassment to Michigan. Also, real quickly, Michigan beat Ohio State and Alabama to close the season. Has there ever been a mediocre team to have a better finish to the season? What in the world happened down in Tampa?
Only one of those teams is good. Ohio State's a good team. Bama's not. I'm sorry, Granny. I'm sorry, Grayson. But why are you making me talk about Alabama on this show? It was already awkward. It was awkward at Christmas because my grandmother swears I have the same influence as Kirk Herbstreit or something. So, but I was the reason that her Tide didn't get in. Sorry, Grandma. I know your birthday is coming up. Happy birthday in advance. But you know that the Tide just aren't a good team this year. Too inconsistent.
Sorry, Granny. Happy New Year. Last game here, the quarterfinals, the All-State Sugar Bowl. Notre Dame and Georgia that comes in a little bit battered. Obviously, Carson Beck with the injured UCL. Gunnar Stockton will be the trigger man for the Bulldogs. Do you think Notre Dame can pull off the upset here?
Absolutely. I think that Notre Dame is extremely physical in their own right, and I think that the thing that was going to be Georgia's separator was Carson Beck being better than Riley Leonard at pushing the ball down the field. With that being said, Gunnar Stockton can win this game if he pulls off his best John Stockton impression and is just like, hey, I'm just here to distribute this thing and let my playmakers play. But we haven't seen much from Georgia's playmakers this year if their last name is not ETN. With that in mind, I've got Notre Dame. And yes, I know I picked what? 2 upsets? 2? Yeah, so I only picked half upsets here. And I know with the college football playoff, we haven't seen a lot of parity here, but I really and truly believe in Arizona State and Notre Dame pulling off these wins here.
Wednesday evening, and you hear repeated car crashes, you're safe on the sidewalk. It's just Notre Dame and Georgia playing in the Sugar Bowl. This game is going to be ridiculously physical. I think it'll more than likely be very low scoring. And to your point about Gunnar Stockton, I think Georgia can still be okay. He just has to distribute the rock. Don't be the guy that's the reason that Georgia loses in this game. I really think Georgia can still be okay as long as Stockton doesn't turn it over like 3 times. Now, that being said, I also think that Notre Dame can win this ball game. Jeremiah Love is a fantastic running back. We all saw what he did against Indiana and all season for that matter. I think he scored in every single game. Notre Dame has the capability. I'm very interested to see how their defense can match up against a backed-up quarterback. I'm actually going to take the Irish in the upset, even though it's like a 1-point difference right now. Give me the Irish in the All-State Sugar Bowl. That'll do it for us here on Wednesday. Again, Happy New Year to all. Feel free to flood the comments with your quarterfinal picks. Tell us what you think about DJ Eliot serving as the new defensive coordinator for NC State. And give us your top moments for NC State in the year of 2024. That'll do it for us here on Wednesday. Catch you all tomorrow on Thursday for more. And until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.